Jim, I would imagine the number one question that you get is HBO coming back, or are you coming back to commentate? Is any of that stuff likely ever?
I think most people now understand that HBO isn't coming back. You know, HBO was bought by uh, a cell phone sales organization from Dallas, which had no particular interest in continuing boxing for whatever reason, and that was functionally up to now my exit from the sport. I don't know the reason for that. I couldn't possibly tell you because I don't know the reason why I haven't gotten a quality offer from a streaming service or a cable network or any other distributor to call a fight. But of course, I'm 74 years old. So, you can't expect everything to go your way forever. And I was almost 70 at the moment when HBO. No, I was actually 70. I was 70 years old when HBO boxing came to an end. So, regardless of whether I thought I was capable and ready to go forward calling fights, that hasn't happened. So, other people, and I respect all of them, do the ringside part of it. And now I'm going to go put myself into the editorial flow of a fight with an entirely different platform, working with Lance Pugmire on ppv.com, and very excited about communicating that way.
I just feel like your insight is severely missed in your perspective, especially after the fights when you give your take, your piece on everything like that. And I think that's something that's been missing for the longest time.
Well, for 4 years, if that's your point of view, but again, I don't make that decisions. Unfortunately for me, you don't make those decisions, and so no no opportunity to continue doing television commentary on boxing has arisen until electronic communication, online, ppv.com, what I'm about to do with Lance Pugmire. That's the great chance now.
So I'm going to give you some, I guess, some warm up on answering fan questions. I got a bunch of fan questions asked in, and I'm just going to go throw a few at you from our fan base. And at Robert Jimenez 688 asks you, Jim, what's your current pound for pound list?
I wouldn't tell him that I have a current pound for pound list because I haven't been sitting ringside. So I couldn't honestly say that I can tell you for sure who's number one pound for pound, but at this moment, you pin me to the wall. I have to say Terrence Crawford. I did get some credit from the great Tom Hauser because I told Hauser 2 days before Crawford Spence, when most of the world was saying this is a pick'em fight, I said, I don't think it is a pick'em fight. I think that Crawford has a significant advantage in background and in competitive psychology, and it wouldn't shock me if Spence needs a rescue late in the fight, and that wound up happening. So Hauser patted me on the back for it. So Crawford won, Inoue two, and from that point forward, there are a lot of fighters to consider, including, even though it's pound for pound we're talking about, you gotta look at Tyson Fury. I mean, who is harder to beat than Tyson Fury, given all of his physical qualities and his tactical qualities? I find it very hard to envision or imagine who can beat Tyson Fury, and I think in the long course of history, it's pretty hard to figure out. He's 6 feet 9 inches tall. He has arms that are longer than that profile. His initial instinct in the ring is to defend himself. He's a backup counterpuncher who can punch your lights out. I mean, all of those things put together, Fury's got to be in the top 5 pound for pound.
Shakur Stevenson did a quote about Fury saying like Fury would have beaten Ali, and he got a lot of shtick for it. But he said, look how big this guy is. Like,
exactly,
look how big these other heavyweights were.
Exactly the point. I was at dinner with Emmanuel Stewart in Las Vegas many years ago. And Emmanuel was my closest adult male friend, very close with him. And I looked across the table. I said, Emmanuel, I've heard that you are working in the gym with Tyson Fury. He said, that's true. I've brought him to Detroit, to Gronk. And I said, why in the world are you interested in Tyson Fury? He looks to me like a clumsy oaf. And Emmanuel put his fork down and he said, Jimbo, he's going to be the heavyweight champion of the world, and there's absolutely no doubt about it. Look at his height, look at his arm length, look at his basic defensive backup instincts in the ring. Look at how much power he's going to be able to generate when he decides and makes the commitment to go forward and hit people with all his weight, et cetera, et cetera. Not only is he going to be heavyweight champion, and there's no doubt about it, he might be an unbeatable and unbeaten heavyweight champion. Emmanuel said that to me many years ago. Look at Tyson Fury. Tell me he's not an unbeaten and unbeatable heavyweight champion at this point on this planet.
Yeah, it's, you know, just given his physical gifts, it's very hard to match him up against anybody, and him not being the winner. But people do say
history. In history.
In history, yeah.
You can say Marciano would have a chance against him.
Marciano was tiny.
You can say Jack Dempsey would have a chance against him. These are great, great fighters. They would look like flies in there against Tyson Fury. You know, Ali and Lennox Lewis are the two fighters whom most of the intelligent critics I've spoken to ultimately settle on. Well, you know, Lennox would have the power and Ali would have the instincts and the defensive skills and stuff like that. Yeah, I agree. Those would be interesting fights. But would you get me to say there's no way that Tyson Fury could beat Muhammad Ali or Lennox Lewis? I'm not in that bag. You know, he would have a chance, and against anybody who ever lived.
What about Usyk, the man that's fighting this weekend? Does he stand a chance against him?
It's a great matchup, you know, and you might say if there's anybody who can bother Fury, it's a much smaller, skilled counterpuncher. So Usyk is a much smaller, very skilled counterpuncher. He'll be quicker than Tyson. He might be able to dart in and out. He'll employ side-to-side movement, make himself a tougher target than Tyson has faced with the come-forward Deontay Wilder. You know, there are lots of possibilities in that fight, and I'm not totally shocked, although Emmanuel might, you know, roll in his grave. I'm not totally shocked if Usyk gets a win against him, but that's going to come down to scoring. You know, he's not going to knock him out. That's going to be judges picking rounds to give to Usyk, and you know, it will be an argument in their minds because Tyson will land the bigger shots.
Yeah, that was actually a fan question that brought in, but with added context to it, as what do you think about the heavyweights? We've seen all these other guys make fights. What do you think about the heavyweights not fighting each other, particularly Fury and Usyk not being able to fight yet, and we're seeing now Fury against Ngannou?
Well, Fury against Ngannou is too bad. I'm not a fan of boxers versus MMA guys, but of course the world has changed. Most boxing fans these days are also fans of MMA. That's one of the ways in which I am old-fashioned and perhaps over the hill, because I've never paid constant attention and developed a fan perspective on MMA. I don't know what Ngannou's chances are. I start from the perspective that I used when I was talking to fans about Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor. It's two different sports. They are two different skill sets. So when MMA guys come into the ring to fight boxers with boxing rules, they're up against it. The boxing rules are set up to favor the way the boxer fights, and the boxer's skills are honed in relation to boxing rules, and MMA is different. So, you know, a boxing pad, the ring surface is, from my understanding, softer than MMA. Because there's a cushier, plusher pad there, Mayweather knew that if he allowed Conor McGregor to throw and maybe even land a little bit in the early rounds, he could tire him out faster. McGregor was exhausted by the end of that fight. So, you know, boxers are smart. They find every edge they can find. And I tend to believe that Fury has those kinds of edges against Ngannou.